And welcome aboard. Welcome back. Come on in. Grab some fire. It's nice over here. It's been too long here. It's a Tallahassee Talk podcast with your boys, Andrew Joop and Trenton Young. Trenton, how we doing today, my man?
It's been a while, Andrew Jupe. Happy to be back, brother. We got a big 2024 season coming up. We just had a great 2023 season, so ready to unpack some of that and get some content back out to our faithful listeners, brother.
Absolutely. A lot of things happening around the club. Of course, we get into episode 33 of the podcast here, Trent. So, some hills and valleys, and we've been trying some different things. Would you see the new format here? So, give us some flexibility as we go through here. But, of course, the official podcast of the Tallahassee Soccer Club, your Battle Lions. And of course, we also get into the conference play as a whole when you talk about the Gulf Coast Conference in the league that we're in, the National Premier Soccer League. And of course, Trent, let the people know, what is this podcast here, as you can see in that beautiful little heading down there at the bottom, my man.
Yeah, Jupe, it's the longest running podcast in the Gulf Coast Conference. This is year 4 that we've been cranking out some pods, doing some games for the Battle Lions. So happy to be back for another year, man. Happy to have this cool format. We're going to throw up some cool graphics for everybody to check out later in the pod. So, yeah, buddy.
Absolutely. We're going to get it going. So, Trent, obviously, we're talking about the season coming out of it, historic for the Battle Lions, as we didn't really get a chance to put a bow and unpack the season that was. So, here with so many developments going around the team, I guess we kind of owe it to the people, maybe, or maybe we owe it to ourselves, Trent, as we were so caught in the moment. And then other obligations really kind of really robbed us of an accurate and kind of wholesome reflection of the TSC season that I think it deserved, frankly. And I feel like maybe this is just a space to make it happen, man. So historic. It was great as a fan, and obviously working with the team. It was a lot of fun to be around. So just unpack the season that was 2023 summer, getting back at it here. NPSL TSC is back.
Absolutely, dude. That was a ginormous year that we were able to finally make the conference playoffs in the NPSL Gulf Coast Conference. So third year, finally making the playoffs. That was huge. 4 teams get in. We were able to squeeze in as the 4th seed. Started off super hot, man. We were undefeated through 7 games to start the year. It was our first winning season since 2019, back when we were in the GCPL. Got our first win against Southern States, and we lost to them on the road. Close game. We were up 2-1 at the half, man. So that was a good one. We were able to go out there and experience that firsthand and be right there on the sidelines. And that's hands down my favorite memory I've had as a Battle Lion over these last 3 years. So that was really cool to go out there with the boys, hang out, get to talk to all the coaches and Pet Lee and everybody that took the trip out there. And just a great team bonding experience. Obviously didn't get the result we wanted, but Southern States was the 1 seed. They had a really good team, and we fought till the bitter end. And I'm very proud of the way the boys played that game and every game last season.
Yeah, it was awesome. And obviously, you kind of saw the culmination of that. You talk about it on a number of levels, right? So you think about all the milestones that they broke. There were so many times I feel like we said, hey, this is the first time TSC scored against this opponent, the first time they've gotten a result against this opponent, the first time they've done this, the first time they've done that. Not only making those personal barriers kind of breaking through, we also saw some team goals get broken through as well. And then also hitting on the level of, for me, which I think was big, is okay, so we know we're in a pretty good realm. We've got a solid team. We think play is up, right? We started to see that early in the season. I think that was pretty undeniable that it was trending upwards. But it was like, how far have they come? Is this a team that's going to get results against the middle and the bottom of the table and then just still get smacked around by the top dogs? Or is this a team that's literally going to have an opportunity to get points in every single game that they played? And Trent, it was definitely the latter. There's a great quote by Bobby Bowden, of course. I love them Knowles being here in Tallahassee. I got all my Tallahassee swag on here today, as you can see. But when he was building the program, before he got big and they started winning national champions, he said, what we want to do against the opponents is we're going to lose by a lot. That's just naturally. We're going to start to make it close. We're going to start to lose by a little, and then we'll start to win by a little. and then we can start laying the screws down a little bit. Then we can start to win big. And that's when you develop really in kind of elite program. And I think we were kind of in that second, third stage. Now we went toe to toe with the big dogs. And I think the biggest instance to me, how realistic is the club, is the Jacksonville result on the road. Because in the previous two seasons, 2022, 2021, we got smashed. I think it was like 6-1 and 5-1 or 7-1 or something ridiculous like that. And we were in the house. We've been to 2 of the last 3 years. The one that we missed was the one that they played the best, Trent. But seeing them go there, and they really didn't play too hot, to be honest. I thought defensively was solid and kept them in the game. It was kind of sloppy, sandy field out there at UNF, but they were able to kind of push through and made it a battle at least, and kind of fallen 2-1. And that's when I kind of really started to take it to the next level. Is like, okay, we've now beaten Southern States at home. We were in Jacksonville's backyard, the team who's been largely the best, back-to-back regular season champs here in the conference, and, kind of the ultimate dictating power in our realm of the country here in the NPSL. And so I was like, hey, we can hang with them. We can hang with anybody. And it really kind of catapulted us through there. And like you said, it was all, unfortunately, we really did have a really good chance to win on the road there on a terrible weather day out in Southern States for that playoff game. But in the regular season, we won even the series against them. We beat them 1-0, shut them out at the Gene. And then we went on the road, tied them 3-3 in a crazy kind of comeback game. And then we had we fell to them 3-2 after leading big chunks of that game, in the playoff one that, like you said, we were there for, Trent. So, man, just a great ride, and, got me believing, my man. But 2023 season was quite the ride.
Yeah, and I'm happy you bring that up about Jacksonville, Joop, because in 2022, obviously they're the number one team in all of the NPSL. We finished dead last out of all teams that qualify, 94th. So I think just those two results with them in the regular season alone show how much growth we made from 2022 to 2023. Just took that huge step forward. And yeah, we lost to them on the road. That was tough, but it was 2-1. That's a close game. That's a game that we're in fighting until the very last second, until the ref blows a whistle. And we get that tie at home 2 years in a row. That's freaking huge. And I mean, I don't know. The gap between where we were, a year ago, a little over a year ago now, I guess, year and a half ago to now is just huge. Or at least to where we were last season. Obviously, we'll talk later about some of the turnover we'll have with the roster, and can't expect everybody from that Cinderella team to be back, but I'm sure we'll have a couple returning faces we'll be pumped about, and a lot of newcomers, hopefully. So, yeah, dude, it's a really exciting time to be a Battle Line fan and to be a part of this organization. And the arrow is definitely trending upward at this point in time, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the top dogs and the kind of the competition. First winning season since 2019. First time they had a winning season in the National Premier League, or National Premier Soccer League, NPSL. And the first time that they beat Southern States, first time they scored against Southern States, and the top two dogs, even record level with the top two dogs. So you had one win, two ties, and one loss. You won by 1 goal and you lost by 1 goal. So the goal differential is 0, and you had 5 points in 4 matchups with the two best teams in our league. So I think you saw TSC kind of really stepping up to the plate. And I know every year is different, and that's what makes the NPSL so wild. Is it seems even more so than like you see in high school sports. There's such a volatile kind of situation, so much changeover. We're going to have to build it all up again. It seems like here in 2024, but it was great to see a lot of the elements from 2023 kind of packing in. And then you start to see what is a serious team. You talk about protecting the gene, right? We always talked about how we had to have the fortress. We got the best home atmosphere in the league. It's not even close.
No.
Attendance, it's not even close. People going into the broadcast that are tuning in for that, not even close. And so when you have a team with so much support, you want that to be rewarded. And the fact that, we had 6 games at the Gene, only lost 1, came away with 11 points from those games, and only allowed 5 goals in those 6 matches at home, huge. And it really gave us an advantage, not only for some of those Western teams coming out here to Tallahassee, Trent, but just being able to like, hey, this is an adverse environment now. Not only are you going to get yelled at, but everybody's going to stay for the full length of the game because we're not losing
Yeah.
nil anymore. So that just on so many levels kind of hit through, and just the hot streak that we started the season, like you were saying, went through 7 matches undefeated, went through 6 matches in league play. 60% of our league schedule, without a blemish in the loss column. I mean, it was just kind of it was a wild tale, right? Because it was always pitched as the underdog season, and that we were going to have to fight up against it, and we knew we would kind of be trending up, and we knew we were going to be that underdog. Nobody does an underdog like TSC, but I think realistically, we kind of even surpassed our own expectations realistically of where we would be here this season. So, to me, exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, I
Exciting.
couldn't agree more, Jupe, because I mean, going into the year, I don't think we wanted to get into the playoffs, but realistically, if you asked us if we would, like that was just uncharted territory. We hadn't been there yet. So we didn't know what the identity of this team was going to be. We heard about Kevin Lowe and we were pumped about him. And I remember checking out, I think he had a highlight video before he came out to Tallahassee that he just put up a couple months before that. And I was like, dang, dude, this guy in the midfield is going to be money with Johnny Fitzgerald. And then we got Gaku too. And it's like, holy cow, dude, this whole team is just like, we got like some legit ballers, dude. Like these are some actual studs, and not to dog anybody that we had in the past, but like you could just see the level of play was just notches above where it was. And just yeah, Kalo does rule. If you got a picture of him, pull that up if you can, buddy,
Oh
because that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
the freaking man. But yeah, I got to talk to him a little bit actually the morning we made that road trip, and it was cool just chatting it up with him and just talking about his life. And we talked about golf a little bit, and we had some golfers on that team last year. So, but anyhow, that's just kind of a random point. But yeah, dude, like just all those guys coming together, like that's something we hadn't seen before. There he is. There's the man. But hopefully we get to see him again this year. That'd be a pretty tall order to get him back. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of teams that are going to be wanting him, especially if they saw any of our film from last year or check out that highlight film or watch any of his games this last year. But yeah, dude, that goal that he had in the Southern States game alone that literally like defied physics and shouldn't have gone in. He just hit it so hard it had to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I hope we get some more players like that this year. And say he doesn't return, that just gives the opportunity for somebody else to step up into that position. And yeah, man, I can't wait to see what this roster is. We got open tryouts coming up, so I'm excited for us to be back in the NPSL and hopefully get back in the playoffs 2 years running, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we got, I think, playoffs on the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. So depending when we get this out, it's kind of coming up. But Trent, as we kind of get that, one of the new feature of this little playout system is to be able to showcase some of these visuals and things going on. So we got a new home for the podcast here, Trent, and a lot of the content and information that we kind of put out here, that we'll have, of course, down below in the link. I-10 Sports Media is going to be our home here, our buddies that we've been collabing with. But there you go. Just an opportunity to throw it out there. Oh, you can't see the date? No. What if I scroll down a little bit? Can you see that? There we go. So we got this nice little graphic here with the media team at TSC who's been killing it. But yeah, absolutely. We'll have the registration link involved there as well, and kind of continue to get going. But let's see the next phase of this team. Yeah, so of course you can see everything here, and as we're breaking it down, you have all the locations, and we're going to have some important notes, and of course the links here if you want to get registered, want to get to that tryout. But basically, like we were saying, Trent, with this new home, you get under this Tallahassee Soccer Club tab. We want to have all these kind of news and notes that we get throughout the semester, and just kind of different things that bounce up, of course, here for the Tally SC Talk podcast, our home. You got the description there and every single episode here archived all in one place, depending on how you want to bounce around for different topics and information of everything you need here, Trent. So part of the whole media upgrade package of the new website is just to be able to store all that information and have one easily accessible place where you can go for any kind of TSC content that we kind of put out here as the official podcast of your Tallahassee Soccer Club, all housed in one place, baby. And we want to continue to be able to educate the fan and just put that other things in front of you that comes up to continue to feed the beast, fuel this beautiful soccer club that we have going on here, Trent. So that's basically the initiative of the old switch over here. But should get it rolling. So, of course, that's one thing that we're bringing in towards 2024, Trent. But we've got a number of things that are changing for 2024. We've recently gotten an update about. And, of course, the biggest thing is the top dog is coming back, my man. Your thoughts?
I mean, Joop, you just think about how everything unfolded last season and like where we were able to go and like what we were able to accomplish as a team. And, you just think about, what Coach Joel was able to bring to the table in his first season as our head coach and just the direction that we're headed. And I just really think the sky's the limit. And I know we might not have all of the same players back from last year, but I think it's more just like a system and a process than it is like, specific to each individual player that we have. Now, I'm not saying that these guys are exchangeable or anything like that, or, they're replaceable necessarily, but it's just like he knows how to get the best out of his players. I think he's, a really good man manager. At least that's how it seemed. And, the little time that we've spent talking to him and being around him, got to sneak into the locker room right before that Southern States game and see firsthand how he is with the boys. And yeah, man, that just got me fired up. So just happy to be back at the Gene. Happy Coach Joel's back and happy we're back. And I don't know, man, I'm feeling playoffs or bust for this season, which is kind of crazy, thinking, the last year was the first year we got in and no idea how the conference is going to look or, how that's going to unfold. But, as of now, I just feel very confident. And, I can't say necessarily I felt that way a year ago, after that tough season we had where we only got a point. So, yeah, just excitement level at an all-time high, I guess I could say.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you talk about Joel coming back, absolutely huge. I feel like just as far as a belief goes, you kind of talk about those intangibles, those processes, that mentality, that culture, and you have to learn how to win sometimes, Trent. And it's been a while since TSC won, but I feel like they learned about that. Now there's a belief in the program that exists, that is going on. The fans, there was, when we would talk to people around town, they kind of lost faith, to be honest, in the organization. And so they kind of drifted away. And then some of those people would start coming back to games. Some of the soccer community was getting more involved, and just kind of the infectious nature of everything that kind of trickled down, really kind of aided the program. And then, of course, you talked about the good home environment at the Gene. Just got the Gene approved here by the league.
Yeah, man.
Trent, to give it another go. So for the fourth consecutive year, the Gene will be the full-time home for your TSC Battle Lions. And of course, we love the soccer at the Gene, my man. No better place to spend a Saturday.
Absolutely not.
In the summer. So that's huge. And we talked about kind of earlier, right? Is it the Gene being a fortress and how successful TSC was, and that great home crowd, that great support, that great belief within the players all feeds into each other, right? And so just being able to create an adverse environment for the people coming in, but also a totally slam dunk, awesome family atmosphere for people here in the greater Tallahassee area. That's what it's all about, baby.
Nah, and Joop, and I mean, the Gene gets rocking on Saturdays. We had a couple midweek games, and we still had some good turnout for that. But, just being able to be proud of the attendance that we have, and we're pushing, 6, 7, sometimes 8, 900 for these home games, and so it'd be nice to, get this community that's bought back in out there strong and near 1,000 every game. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do this next season. So that's why season tickets are so important, and that's just why this club is so important. We're just trying to build a soccer community around town. Kids get to come out and see some good teams and some good games. And, last season, even in the games that we lost down the stretch, we were still fighting, man. Like, it was still really good soccer to watch. And I think that, if you tuned in for a game or you were out there in person, like, you just saw it and you felt it. And it was just something that, since we've been a part of the club, at least, like I haven't felt like there was just like an energy and aura around the team, and it just felt like, man, this is a special bunch. And any given game, like they could really do something special, whether that's score a goal that they shouldn't be scoring or getting a result that they have no business getting. And yeah, dude, like, we go out there on Southern States and we tie that game in the regular season. Like that was huge, dude. Like 3-3. Like they're a tough team. We shut them out at home. And I mean, I think that just goes to show like those were the conference champions last year. And, we were able to hang with them. And like you said, we were up a good bit of that game out there on the road in the playoffs, and so that was tough to lose that one. But man, like just to see the boys like overcome like an early goal, I think it was like the 5th minute we allowed one, and then right before the half, like put two in, like in two really badass goals at that. So that was just cool, man. Like this is, I don't know. I hate to keep saying it, but this is just a really special team, and this is a really special time in this organization. And I feel like we just caught lightning in a bottle with Coach Joel.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm almost kind of dangerous, Trent, because I know just like any season or any iteration of the team, when you're adding different players, subtracting different players, there's a general culture that kind of prevails, right? But realistically, when you talk about a team dynamic, you can never, ever replicate that team dynamic ever again. So I'm almost a little concerned, and I get a pause on myself a little bit. And, kind of the old adage is you don't really know greatness until it's already over, or you don't know the really good times until you're in the bad times. And Trent, that could be one of the greatest teams ever. And you just talk about how they fought for each other, just the camaraderie, the togetherness, and the flow, and everything that you kind of saw play out, and the extra effort, and how they were going the extra mile for it. Like Kalo was out there just, I don't know how he could still walk after some of those games, Trent, the way he was just getting chopped down. When you talk about the late winners, being able to persevere, not only being in shape, right, which is a physical soccer thing, but just the mentality to go forward to get that goal against Jacksonville, the header to get the equalizer. Or you think about just a simple thing, a double back of just a great possession. So I'll go back to the Southern States game at home that I was just watching some clips from earlier today. And you had the pursuit on the attack, you had the throw in, the ball gets through, but just a kind of combination of plays, they're able to flick it through, and then Lamango was able to collect. And he didn't rush, he didn't force it, he just laid it back to Wallace. And then Wallace one time's a beautiful ball, and then it's not on Padilla, but Padilla's following the ball, and the goalkeeper tries to get a little flashy. He flubs it, and then Padilla's just in there to dunk it in, and that was the deciding goal in the game, right? And not only having that goal, but being able to offset Southern States, who had the 15 minutes before that just a total onslaught. It was wave after wave after wave of offensive attack.
Mm-hmm.
And Trent, we talked about it. It was like, there's no way TSC can sustain 15 more minutes of this. We have to have a release valve. And
Yeah.
we got an absolute gift. And Padilla, we had just talked about him waiting to get his iconic Battle Lion moment, and not 3 minutes later, he goes ahead and gets it for, at this point, arguably, you could argue it. There are a lot of good goals, right? But as far as monumentous goals, arguably the most monumental, except for the first goal, right? But it's on the Mount Rushmore of monumental goals here for this franchise, being able to take down Southern States in 1-0. But just to kind of see all the pieces adding up in so many instances throughout the season, like you talked about the away game at Southern States. Let's not sleep on that. That was a transcendent moment in of itself. We're out there. We had to go, and this is the regular season game. Saturday night game, you remember, it gets delayed, terrible storms, field is flooded. So they had to push the game back to Sunday. And so they had to go ahead, and typically we would have just woken up and left, right? Because we would have had to play the game. We spent the night there and headed on back. But the board members, Big Z, Zach Arsenault, had to go to the grocery store and get groceries.
Yeah,
But,
man.
because this is the People's Club, right, in TSC, there's not this big money booster that's going on, that's throwing down. Like, we can only financially, it's only set to spend one night at each destination. So we can't go ahead at the time. And so it's all kind of factored out where, like, we got to get back on the road because it's not in the budget to have 3 meals paid for on Sunday, which is what we were looking at. So he's at the grocery store, and then you have other people fundraising, shooting like live videos to hit the Venmo to feed the team before the game. They play it at like 10 a.m. Sunday after all the delays and all the travel. They go down 2-0 in that game, and then they fight all the way back to get the 3-3 draw. And they could, and really, not to dog the boys, they should have won that game. So many chances in that second half. Trent Blake was going absolutely bananas. You really saw him kind of punch through there, but those were just some of those moments that's like, if you don't have a team that's galvanized together and believing and working together, that you could see things shatter apart. But that may be, and you say that it feels like every game we can make the case that that's the most important game of the season, or that's the most impressive game of the season that kind of played out, man. But it's just like you have so many instances you go back, and it's just like, another chapter in the book. It's just like another one to add on the heart, man. And, this crest covers the heart, not on accident. It's on outside and inside, man, and you can't help but kind of fall in love with these franchise, and that 2023 squad was just kind of the real development of that, the real embodiment of that to me, man. And just so many moments that you can look back and you're like, man, unreal.
Yeah, we really earned our stripes last season. I felt like, like for those first 2 seasons, it's like, okay, new kid on the block, jumping up a division in the semi-professional soccer world, and like it was a decent first season. It was really rough the second season, and then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And then you just see just game after game, no matter the result, like it's just a different team out there that like really is fighting and competing above their level, I would argue. Like we had just a really scrappy bunch, chip on the shoulder bunch, and they really just gave it all they had. And some of these guys are like in their 30s with wives and kids, and they're still going out there and making big appearances and coming on late as super subs. And yeah, dude, it's such a cool story because like we did import some players last year, but we still had such a strong Tallahassee core of like people in the community still active citizens in Tallahassee. And so I think that's just what makes this team so special is so many of these other teams in the conference or at this level bring in so many other players, and we're just able to do it organically for the most part. And, just kind of use some imports as like the icing on the cake, really, at the end of the day. So just very thankful for this club and the way that it's been built. And, just truly cannot wait to get some more of these fixtures in next season and, just see how these boys fight back and, just happy to be back in NPSL. There was some talk, we might have to go to a different conference, but I'm happy we're in the NPSL, man. I'm proud that we're back, and I just want to get back in the playoffs and kind of defend the Battle Lion name and show that wasn't a one-off year, like we can do this any given year with any given team when we got Coach Joel. So I'm pumped, man. It's just, gosh, I feel like this is just the best it's ever been, or at least last season was the best it's ever been. So I hope we can give them another run next season, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the down years, I feel like made it appreciated every more. Because if we would have just switched up, obviously successful in the GCPL, if we would have come off and, been a middle of the table or, like a top 3 team our first couple years in the NPSL, I don't think it would be such a rise, such a shock, such a, kind of tail. But you had bottom out with that winless season the year before in 2022, ranked last out of every team, not only in the league, but of 94 teams in the nation, from Miami to Washington to New York to San Diego, right? All teams in between here for the NPSL, dead last.
Yeah, man.
Bottom of the bottom, but to see their rise and, for a long time be tied for the conference lead, going through 7 matches undefeated, all that good stuff, and to just be in the conversation. We were even talking about it just with 4 games to go, that we were realistically having honest conversations about where the playoff seeding would be, and not just some kind of crazy harebrained theory where we'd have to win every game by 3 and everybody else that we need to lose a game would have to lose, right? So it was just great in that regard. It's just a practicality standpoint. It's like, I don't look like a conspiracy theorist trying to drum up TSC in the playoffs anymore, Trent.
Dude, 2022 is bad. You almost started to piss me off with some of that stuff. But I mean, I love that you like never gave up, and that's awesome. But it's just like, dude, technically, mathematically, yes, we are still alive, Andrew Joop, but there's not a snowball chance that we're going to be able to get in. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like that anymore. Like even though we have no idea who's going to be on this team, it just feels like the playoffs are a logistic possibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like that's almost like the standard, like squeezing in as the third or fourth seed. Like, I feel like these guys are fighting for one or two. I had no idea how the conference is going to look. We're going to get into that here in a minute, I'm sure. But, just now in January, just feeling like we've really got a chance to do some damage again. So, oh man, I did want to ask you though, real quick before we segue out of this. And I guess this is kind of late, but like, dude, 1 year, do you want to just go out there and sign up for tryouts and just like see how far we get? Like, I'll be goalie. You'd be a heck of like a winger or a midfielder.
Well, I'd say if you want to go for it, go for it. But
You're not
I
gonna?
think as a tune of respect, realistically knowing where my prime was and what that level was and where I am now and what level I could even dream to be tangible. Trent, I've got no business even going out there and trying out. Me personally. I can't
Okay.
speak for everybody. If you want to go for it, especially in goal, because goal's a wild card, man. You never know. And so, but for me, I've got absolutely zero business based on the team that I saw on the field. And I know
Fair
it's
enough.
that old thing. It's like, I go out there and kick it with the boys, give me a good 45 minutes, sub me off at halftime. No, me, they try to chip me a ball over the top. Gaku tries to put something on my left foot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to turn around and come back into play, right? Get Cy with a little underlap and run, or maybe I'm trying
Sure.
to hit the youngster, Trenton Blake. And you know what I'm going to do? My defender's touch is going to blast that joker over the fence of the back. I'm going to trip on that beautiful field turf at the Gene, and the 1,000 people, hopefully, that are out there watching the game are going to be laughing at me. And that is exactly why I will not be trying out. I've got no business being in the league of these guys. A lot of guys, D1, high D2, a lifelong players that are still in form, that actually have touch and can do things with a soccer ball. So to answer that question, I will not be there January 27th between 2 and 4 p.m. at the Meadows Soccer Complex for this year's tryouts, Trent.
All right, well, way to reel me back in because you're 20 times the soccer player I am. So I'll just leave my boots hung up, or I'll save them for Mondays out there on Landis with you and old cousin Cody. But all right, yeah, fair enough. I mean, it honestly would kind of be a waste of their time for us to go out there. Now that I'm thinking about it out loud, okay. Sorry,
If you
everyone.
want to go, don't let me crush your dreams, though. But I'm saying on a realistic standpoint, and I say that as a compliment to the team. Not that I ever was going to be in the realm, if we're being honest, even GCPL, but not even a quit. For me, never. Because people ask me that. I was like, dude, I do the talking on the games. I'm not a collegiate soccer player. All right. So that's what I tell the people. But Trent, I fully embrace you going for it, and dreams do come true. And goalkeeper will be a position of need here kind of coming up.
Dude, Tyler Sloan's still like 16 years old, man. I feel like we're going to be good for a while. So we'll see.
He's like that one UF player or that one Miami player. Did you hear about this guy who's coming
No.
back for like his 8th or 9th year?
No.
With the COVID and the grad and the transfer and all this craziness, it's either his 8th or 9th. And it's just like, I feel like we've been the coaching staff has been telling us Tyler Sloan's been 16 for years. It's like, okay, I know he's a beast at Lincoln. He's doing big things. It's like, I'm ready for the
When are we
Sloan
going
era.
to see him?
So I'm hoping Ty comes back this year, I think, first of all, because, I don't know what the other question marks lie as maybe we want to get into some personnel, Trent. We talked about the turnover. Are we jumping into full-blown personnel right now?
Dude, we might as well. I mean, freaking
Okay.
cousin Cy and Johnny Fitzgerald just graduated college, so who knows what's about to happen.
True. Yeah. So that's the thing. And staying on the topic of goalkeeper Quadio, we're still kind of waiting for those reviews, and I'm meeting with Coach Joel here shortly. So maybe we'll get some input onto who's coming back, who's returning when we come in for the next podcast. But Quadio, and also Cam. So obviously Cam's been a full-timer here in Tallahassee area getting in. I know he has a lot of wear and tear for his job and absolutely heroic effort this season. Quadio was awesome input, but I would say there's a pretty strong possibility that, for many different factors on each, because they obviously live two very different lives, right? And I think there's a strong possibility that neither of them come back. So is that your Sloan era? And then whoever else kind of comes into the fold, or who's next up here in the youth ranks? Because I think the Tallahassee area consistently has developed solid goalkeepers, being a little in touch with the prep side. That's probably the strongest position that we've seen kind of come up through consistently, is goalkeeper, usually two or three guys. I know there's a fantastic guy over in Taylor County right now. He's really fun to watch. We saw him in the Tallahassee All-Star game last year. His name escapes me, so I'm so sorry about that. We'll have to pipe him in and give him a shout out here in the comments and later on. But there's still some talent in the area here, man. But goalkeeper is going to be interesting. Definitely one of the points of emphasis going forward.
What do you think Bosco's doing these days? Do you think there's any chance we give him a ring and bring him back out here?
I don't know, dude. Who knows? He was a wild card. He was fun while he was here.
He was awesome, man.
He was fun.
Hope he's doing well. Shout out Bosco Perry.
Shout out Bosco Perry. Yeah.
You got a picture of Bosco Perry? Can you pull him up? Just show him a little love.
I don't, honestly.
That's all good. No worries.
I only have quick access to the 2023 guys. But you think about it, like going back in the TSC realm, you talked about the local talent here in goalkeeper, and I think you see that reflected in the team as well. You think back to the first year, Hugo Peruzzi, all-conference goalkeeper, absolutely electric. You saw the NPSL jump. Grant Wallum from Wofford.
Yeah.
He was an absolute beast. Obviously, you talked about your boy Bosco. Cam has been here throughout and done really well. Cam Castrua, and then obviously we have Mark Quadio coming in, the East Tennessee man. But that's the thing, at least in between the pipes, rarely haven't had any duds, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, and just looking back real quick on last season, like, that Southern States game, regular season on the road, like, we don't get that draw without Quadio, dude. Like, that was such an insane performance from him. I'm so sad we didn't get to witness that in person. But I remember I was at work and you were texting me like live updates. You're like, dude, Quadio is having the game of his life. Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But like, and then not to take away from Cam Castrua, because like underdog, underrated player of the year, like he was there for us throughout, like everything. Like every time we called upon him in a huge game, like he pulled up, man, and he was ready to ball. So like, yeah, you're right. Like we're pretty strapped at goalie, and we have been for a while. And all this without even seeing Tyler Sloan come out there and really show what he can put on display.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of the most unknown. Obviously, the staff is familiar with Sloan. If he wants to come back, I saw him in high school. He's legit, so he'll be fun. But we'll see. We might have some other kind of positions open up. But yeah, also thinking back to Quadio out in New Orleans, things were kind of slipping away from us on the road. That was in that gauntlet of a road trip where we had to go to Southern States, Jacksonville, and New Orleans all in a 2-week span with all these games and travel. Is absolutely insane. But that was a stretch of the season that would ultimately vanquish our playoff hopes. But the fact that I think in those 4 games we got 3 points. Yeah, because I think it was New Orleans at home, which we tied, New Orleans on the road, which we tied, and Southern States on the road. I'll have to look that up as I got the chart right here. Let me autocorrect myself here, Trent. But, kind of thinking out loud, if I am indeed correct, we were able to get 3 points out of that stretch, which is kind of a typical murderer's row for us. As we look here, yeah, New Orleans, Southern States, Jacksonville, New Orleans. Yes. So 3 points in 4 games, which we would typically come away with. Well, in the 2022 or 2021 season, so 2022 we came away with 0, obviously not even close. But even in the 2021 season, we only got 1 point in that 4-game stretch. And so just by contrast, being able to get triple that and a result in almost every contest, I think that in of itself kind of speaks to it. But yeah, that PK save in New Orleans was nasty. Needed it. Huge for the team, able to get the 2 points out there. That was a sultry weekend out in the Big Easy trip. My goodness. Woo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully they changed up the schedule and we don't have to do that for another year, man, because that is so rough to make that trip.
But you know what? They won't. And
I
that
know.
is that's a point we'll get to later, but disappointing. We'll preface that out there. Yeah, I guess we're kind of in the mix of personnel. Do we want to continue to go through the lines here, or is that too laborious for you, Trent? What do you think?
Nah, I don't care, man. I've got all the time in the world. Go for it.
Okay, what do you think about the back line?
Padilla's back. What do you think?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is all hearsay. These are just off hand rumors, Trent. Like you said, I have heard Padilla wants to come back. I
Yeah,
don't
there's
know.
interest, mutual interest between both parties.
Yeah. Trice, I think Trice is done, which is a
Really?
shame. I think
No,
so.
don't say that.
I think so. That's what I mean. As we go through these guys, I think you'll be surprised the kind of turnover that's on the way, and it sucks because you love this team so much, right? But I think that is
Oh.
a realistic thing. I doubt that Trice is coming back.
See, and
Um,
and this is good because like we haven't really had a chance to talk about this, you and I. Like, we try to stay in touch and keep up to date with everything that's going on TSC related, but like we haven't sat here and done this. So that sucks because like Trice made the road trip with us there and back to Southern States last year for the playoff game. And like it was just super cool bonding with him and cutting it up with him and talking world football with him. So, just as a personal fan favorite, wanted him to be back. And I was watching that Southern States game last night, dude. He was sending some money balls over the top
yeah,
left and right in that game. And we talked about like that would be huge. Like we probably weren't going to be able to possess the ball all the way up through the midfield. So we're going to have to send some stuff over the top. And he came up huge in clearances and sending it and playing it out wide on the wing. And then we were able to filter it back inside to Cy and to Trent Blake. So not to get off on too much of a tangent, but yeah, Tri Smith, great player. Humboldt, shout out.
yeah, absolutely. And he
Providence
was.
High School, Jacksonville.
There you go, Jacksonville. And yeah, I guess those other guys let him go. Let him get away. It's like a big recruit in the city, right? That you let go out of state or out of the area. Yeah, and he was a culture guy too. You talk
Yeah,
about the spring season, the training team kind of as they got going, but I think well, I know he started every game, and
yeah,
I think he got subbed off, but I think there was only one game all year he didn't go wire to wire, which is the
yeah,
only player on the team to do so. So just a constant presence, and he got wrecked at that New Orleans game. A dirty, nasty tackle early in that game, and he soldiered through it. Kind of a showcase. So kind of good on him for that. But
yeah. Big culture guy though. Like you talk about, like I think he was like he said he was like 30, 31, 32, and I was like, dude, no way. Like you're out there like putting in 90 like every freaking game. Like that's crazy. You're still in that shape. Like I was 28 then, I'm 29 now. There's our boy. What a
yeah,
warrior. Um, yeah, shout out Manchester United. Um, but yeah, dude, loved having Tri Smith back there. Is that like we were running like three in the back a lot of times and had like wing backs, and so for him to be like that left center back with that big left foot and to send it over the top, like that'd be huge if we lost that, man. So I'm not saying that nobody else could step up and do that, but I just felt like he was tailor made perfect for that position for Joel last year.
yeah, for sure. And then kind of staying on the back line as we kind of talk about. I could see, since Zuri, at least last I heard, was still in the area, I could see him coming back, but, you know, also with no kind of notification either way. So one of those players could not be either side. Obviously, I think Zuri had a great year.
Yeah,
You can really see his growth in the program last couple of years. As you see, this is his third season this past year in the program, but he had some great minutes here down the stretch of the season and put him in a really good position. Loved his play, um, and so obviously would love him to come back, but don't know what that looks like.
yeah. It feels like a lot of these guys are going to kind of be a coin flip, and there's no telling what they got going on in their personal lives. These guys are starting careers, they're young men, graduating college and everything. So no telling, but yeah, everything I just said for Trice, and not to take anything away from Zuri, I could say for Zuri though, like just being on the opposite side, being on that right side, and really providing a lot of depth downfield in an attacking position and playing some dangerous balls through and just being really strong on the dribble. Really pumped about what Zuri did. And we kind of saw glimpses of that in 2022 once he'd make some appearances. And I remember like some family friends and stuff that would watch the games would text me and be like, yo, who's this dude with like the fancy cleats? Like, why is he coming on like the last couple of minutes? Like, this guy's just lightning in a bottle. He's just an instant spark. So really happy to see him get a lot of time last year down the stretch and put in some good minutes for us.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about Padilla, I know, on the back line, so just wanted to give him some screen time. Sac State, some interest. And that's the thing, the back line was so consistent. We didn't have to rotate a lot of players in years past. Injuries have been so huge. And that was part of it too, right? Just being healthy, being consistent. You think of it like an offensive line, just having a back line who's always there, know what each other's doing. Really, from that Southern States game, which is Padilla's first game onward, that he kind of had rolling. Also, I don't know if it was really kind of common knowledge while we got Ali on the screen here, Trent. I don't even know if we talked about it. The broken nose story.
I don't know anything about this. Please fill me in.
So the first game, I think Southern States was the first game that Padilla was with the team. I think game 4, match day 4, the game at home, the one that we won. He had just gotten in, but he had broken his nose in training. And so they had to order a face mask that he could play with. And so they were waiting on the big online shipping company to hopefully get it in sometime Saturday. Otherwise, he would not be medically cleared to play without a mask. And it gets in at like 3:15 game day Saturday. And then they run it over to the stadium, so he's able to train with it, get comes to him. But that night that he scored the winning goal, he was actually wearing the face mask. You can see it if you look in the back straps that go kind of around his neck. Clear mask, but covering up a broken nose that he had trying to repair from that Southern States game that he was playing with.
Dude, yeah, actually, now that you say that, I do remember because we talked about that on the broadcast, which was so long ago, feels like years ago at this point. But yeah, that was crazy that he was like just a last minute decision and ends up coming up clutch, center back, pushing all the way up and getting a just absolute dunk at the end of the game. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. The goalie's trying to go on the counter because, like you said, they just went on that like 15-minute barrage where it's just attack after attack. And he's trying to keep that momentum going and go on the counter. And he takes his eyes off the ball and is looking out wide. He's wanting to throw it or punt it and just slips right through his fingers. And Ollie right there just to dunk it home, man. And that was so big to finally beat Southern States. And gosh, it just felt so good. That might be my favorite win that we've ever had because, that was our first result against them ever. Like not just winning against them. Like I feel like that was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first time we ever got a positive result, anything other than a loss against them.
Correct. First goal and first result all in one.
Beautiful. Heck yeah, man. Right there in stoppage time too, wasn't it? Or right before stoppage?
Yeah, it was like 86th minute.
Yeah, super late. But yeah, that was a great game and just out of nowhere, man. He just pushed all the way up. Like you said, Matt Wallace sends a beauty over top. And yeah, right place, right time. So won't ever forget that one. That was huge, man.
Yeah. Speaking of, as we kind of go through here, you said the man's name. Matt Wallace, obviously a family man. I think he's got what, 2-3 kids?
Definitely at least 2, because I think 2 were out there at the Southern States game. His family were like, no offense to anybody, but just some of the few people in attendance. That was a super long road trip, so can't really expect a whole lot of Tallahassee faithful to come out for that. But yeah, it was cool seeing his family out there, and he rode out there with us with Trice in the van, and then rode back home with his family. But yeah, dude, super cool to chat it up with him and to watch him get some playing time this season and to see him in his mid-30s still out there and still, really contributing to this team and really having a role on this team. So, I mean, I would love to have him back, but, at that point in his life, same with Joey P, once they get kids and, they got careers and stuff, you just can't expect them to hang on forever or to even be in that shape forever, man. Like even at 29, like I've been out of shape for like 10 years at this point, dude. So it's just crazy to see those guys still able to do it at that age.
Yeah, wow. All respect to him. But yeah, just kind of personally, just like you were saying, family guy, kind of like Joey P. I just don't sustainable, working full time, caring for kids, and but it was cool to see. Glad that we got at least a year with Matt Wallace. Solid dude.
Absolutely.
Solid dude. So that was kind of the midfield. Let's see if we can get it defensively. Obviously, we talked about Quadio. There's our boy. Shout out East Tennessee State. Canadian.
Yep.
Backline. Yeah, not sure about Samuel. I know he was kind of more midfield. Haven't heard anything on him. Basically, everybody on the list here, like we talked about Cam, our
That's
boy,
such a good pick, dude.
our Charles alum, locked in.
A stud.
And got that sweet pink goalie keeper kit on.
And the gloves to match, man. What a swagged out cat.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, even as we're going through, we can go to the beginning. I know. So, like, Cam, if I put a number on it, like, I would say 30% probability he's going to be back. And these are me. Some of these are pretty uninformed. So I've got kind of a mixed bag. There's some things I can't say, some things I can due to our relationship with the club. But yeah, I say Cam 30%. Bennett's a big toss up. Bennett midfield, huge product of this team, 2021, 2022, obviously 2023 as well. But yeah, if I'd have to say 45% probably.
Nah, man. Benny's going to be buried in a freaking TSC jersey. I'm going to go 80.
Okay.
I'm going to go 80. I mean, it's just like, it's the same feeling as Corey Osgood, man. Like, I just never thought there'd be a day where Osgood wouldn't be, wearing a jersey, at least on the bench. And like, he's still affiliated with the team and he still helps out as much as he can. But it's just like, those are just like the day one guys that like I'm holding on to, my cousin Size, my Johnny Fitzgerald. So Benny's definitely in that category. And so I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Completely uninformed. I don't know anything about Bennett Mitchell and his personal life at all, but I'm just, just total bias. I'm going to go 80%.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, Bilal. I think him and Mark are kind of a package deal, childhood friends. They're both off playing collegiate, really good D1 soccer. Bilal, I'd say kind of the same as Quadio. Unknown. I don't know if he wants to come back. I don't know logistically can that happen. What that looks like. He's still over at Cal State Bakersfield getting after it. So I think I'd throw my classic 30% in the mix here, Trent.
Yeah, I'd probably say 20% just to go with everything that you said. And then also just the fact that, like, this dude's just a certified baller and can play so many places, like, above Tallahassee. And no disrespect to Tallahassee at all, but, like, this guy's legit. And, yeah, just super blessed to have players like him and Quadio and Gaku and all these guys come through. And, that was the first time that we did that. It was kind of like our portal year as well. We were able to have some of the families in town host these guys and put them up for a couple weeks, couple months. And that was super cool. And, we've already got plenty of families that want to do that. And I'm sure we always need more. Right. But, just super thankful that he was able to have a place to stay and able to come out here, even for just a handful of games. And it'd be a miracle if he came back. But I just think, like you said, with him and being in college and stuff right now and just being at such a high level of play, like, I just think it is a long shot. So I'll go ahead and go 20% there.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily, like you said, Trent, one of those guys I could see in the future, being tier 3, tier 2 in the U.S. pyramid if he stays in the States.
Oh, easy.
I think that's definitely within the realm. Let's keep going, Cam. A lot of personal. We talked about just job obligations. That's pretty heavy on him. Also, you talk about one of the older guys on the club. Does he want to keep rolling out the old ball? Like we said, he was like the Dark Knight, right? not the hero deserved, but the one we needed so often. It was like, how much left does he have to give this franchise? And so I honestly don't see. But yeah, that 35% is kind of coming back into the realm for me too.
Yeah, I'd probably go with 40. I'm going to go a little higher than that just because he's still in town. And no offense to him, but realistically, this is probably like his last shot at playing, and he still had plenty left in the tank last year. So I'm just going to give a little more benefit of the doubt and hope he comes out, man. Love having him on the roster, even if he's the backup. Like I can't think of a better backup goalie to have. You know, say we get Sloan or Quadio or somebody at that level to start over him. Like that's the guy that I want to have on the bench in case anything happens. There's an injury or somebody gets sick or something like that. Like, yeah, I trust him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about just in that regard, that's what you sleep on. You talked about some of the keepers that have come into the program and the franchise, but realistically, Quadio was supposed to start the first day he got here, but Cam was playing so well that Joel was like, "Hey, I'm gonna start whoever's playing the best right now and whoever's doing what we need them to do." And Cam was playing so well that Mark, I think, had to work harder than he thought he would to win the game back. So good on Cam. And at any instance, when Quadio went down injured, or the last 2 seasons, even before we got Bosco in the mix in 2022, Cam had some phenomenal Jacksonville games.
Yeah, dude.
Games against the Roots and, just getting after it in huge, huge moments. Had that save on that bicycle kick against Southern States, made the highlight reel. That one was gorgeous. Just some great moments from him and kind of his contributions. So tip of the hat, Mr. Castrua. Diego. Oof. This is interesting. This is one of the ones I'd be most positive about. I think I'd put him over 50.
Nice.
I'd say 55. I hear some rumblings that the TU guys were excited to come back, whether that's incorrect or not correct or whatever that looks like. But I'd put him over 50%, probably 55, midfielder.
Again, just because we haven't talked about anything, that's pretty much all I have to go off of. So I'll go 60%. Just hoping that he hears this and wants to come back. He was really cool, dude. Like we got to talk to him a couple times, like on the road trip, and he was always like super appreciative and grateful of like what we were doing, and just always thankful to be seen and to be appreciated, obviously. So yeah, he's a cool cat, man, and he started that game against Southern States and played a little bit of that left wing, and so really liked. Really liked what he was able to bring outside. He had a really cool touch. There was one play where he like just kind of like side heeled it. I don't know if he megged it or just like passed it around the defender, but played it through to staff, and it was just pure class, dude. It was so sick to watch him. I watched that game a bit last night just to get hyped on the pod today, and it was just really cool watching the boys. And obviously, we had a really good shot of him because we're freaking field level down on like the 20-yard line, so he's like right there in front of us. So got to see a lot of him in that video last night.
Yeah, the playoff game was by far his best game of the year. Showed up in the biggest moment when we needed him. If it wasn't for like the immaculate Kalo performance and the midfield, and then you talk about with Johnny too, the center of the park, like they had like otherworldly games. That playoff game versus Southern States on the road. Diego probably, as you're ranking your man of the match, he's probably my number 3 in that playoff game, but fantastic game from him. And so hope we get a little more Argentinian flavor back in the team next year, Trent. So we'll see.
Yeah, dude, it was super cool watching that last night because like first play of the game, like whistle blows, they drop the ball and just send it down the line, like right on top of him, like trying to pick on him. And like, he's not a tall guy. He's probably, I don't know, about 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". But just to see him like not shy away from any of the physical battles that he had there with Walsh and with Hoyos and all the other boys, just really standing his ground and playing, to his strengths the best he could. He played a phenomenal game. But like you said, like Johnny Fitzgerald and Kevin Lowe, like literally just did everything within their power to will Tallahassee to victory and came up just short. But man, I'll never stop talking about that game. I'm sorry about it, but that was the greatest Tallahassee moment that I've experienced and one of the greatest moments of my life, just going out there and seeing those goals and calling that game with you firsthand, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. This is one. Okay, so I said Diego. I'm feeling pretty good about Ethan. Once again, not a ton of information. Know he's coming back. From Swagoo out there, so have another year of collegiate experience. And you kind of think about it. If he does come back, realistically, Tallahassee guy, obviously, you see Leon alum. He's probably yeah, I don't know. But I would say 75%. He's probably one of the ones I feel best about.
All right. Yeah, just knowing he's been around and been a part of the organization for the past couple of years, I'd probably just by default say 60. But since you're so confident, I'll go 70. And yeah, love me some Ethan Stewart, man. Would love to have him back next year.
Yeah, some of those seeds of dissent. Oof, this one once again, Gaku, obviously awesome player. Maybe as far as non full blown professional. So I've seen some MLS, seen some Europe games, some Champions League. Anything below that, probably the best touch that I've seen, especially in a semi-professional level.
Yeah, dude. Just
Unbelievably talented, and I think he kind of went really underrated in the team this year.
yeah, he showed up kind of late to the season, and he had to leave early. He wasn't there for the playoff game, which sucked. We definitely missed him there. But yeah, dude, like just his vision and his touch alone, like he could just he was just so confident on the ball, so strong on the ball. Like you just never felt like there was going to be a time where you could take the ball from him, and if you did, you had to foul him. Like very similar to Kevin Lowe and Johnny, but like just having him as a left-footed dominant player, like just really opened up the offense for us. And yeah, really going to miss him. Don't think he's going to be back. I'd probably put him at like a 10%, honestly, just because he is so stinking good and he deserves to be playing at the highest level possible because, yeah, I mean, he really is just an unbelievable player, Jude.
Yeah, definitely a player I could see playing pro somewhere in the next couple of years, like full blown, like year round pro. Yeah, what a beast. So we wish Gaku the best. We talked about Samuel, largely unknown. I think he had an injury that kind of derailed him as well. So I probably put him, I don't know, he's probably on the lower side too. I'm going to fall back on my standard 30% Trent.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I do remember that he did get hurt, but I can't remember what exactly it was. But yeah, just without having any information, I'll probably go about 20-25% as well. Just thinking that Joel's going to be hitting the portal and trying to get more guys in. And again, just being completely uninformed on this.
Yeah. So some of this stuff, Johnny, oof.
Oof.
So I don't know. I haven't heard either way. So this is totally me going off of it. But just as far as career flow, I know he had the big internship last year and then he graduated, like you said, Trent. So he's going into full time. Seems he's in a pretty demanding career. And it just feels like, unfortunately, like you were talking about Osgood, one of those classic guys, it feels like it's the end for Johnny, which is in large part why this feels not only the typical transition that happens year to year, but especially this year, is because I think I have a gut feeling, like I said, have not heard anything from anybody in the organization or to support this, but I've got a gut feeling that we will not see Johnny in a playing capacity this season.
Yeah, this one's tough, man, because you're like the voice of reason and everything you say checks out and makes sense. But I just can't imagine a TSC team without Cy and without Johnny.
We haven't seen that. That
I
has
know.
existed.
It's impossible for me to
29,
fathom.
20, 21, 22, 23, they've always been there.
It's just
Cy,
like,
like you said, scored the first goal of
yeah,
the
dude.
franchise.
Cy finally comes back and is like the prodigal son and gets a start against Southern States in the playoffs. Oh, man. But anyhow, back to Johnny.
Local guy,
Yeah.
friend Leon Lyons.
I'm going to go 45% just because I feel like just his life trajectory is, making it hard to fit in. Like he just graduated. He could already have a career lined up, dude. Like that's a very, very smart guy. Very, very talented guy on the pitch, but just an insanely brilliant guy off the pitch as well. So, you really just can't be surprised if any of these guys don't come back at this point. But just with him being the captain and like you said, just not ever being able to know a team without these guys. It's just hard to imagine that he wouldn't be there. But yeah, I'll go ahead and say 45%. Obviously, wish the best for Johnny. If he's played his last game for us, then what an incredible effort and what a player we'll miss. But wow, yeah, he's been the captain ever since Schmilk retired our first year in 2021. So last 2 seasons he's been the captain. So just truly impossible. It's like Trent. Try to imagine how infinite the galaxy is, or I'm sorry, the universe is. It's impossible, man. Like I can't imagine TSC without Johnny. It's just like imagine TSC without Chris Padley. Like you can't do it. Like they're just synonymous.
Yeah, indeed. All true. All true. Yeah, I'd probably say like 10 to 15. I'm real low, but I'm hoping for the best, Trent. Let's keep rolling. Justin Smith, another local guy. Justin Smith had some great action early in the season. I'm not sure. Also, one of the older guys. We talk about some of the culture guys with like Matt and Trice. So I'm very ignorant to Justin's situation. The former Lincoln man. So I'll put it right at 50 just because I'm so clueless.
I'll just say 30 because I just think there's a lot of turnover at this point, and there's no telling what the heck's going to happen if he's even playing soccer at this point, if that's even a point. Like you said, we're completely ignorant. We have no information on this. This is total speculation. Your guess is as good as mine, fellow listener. So I'll
But
go ahead.
we are getting some more in the next couple of weeks. So this won't be a trend that we'll have all season of just guessing and having
Well, for sure. I mean, you still have yet to sit down with Joel, so I'm sure once you do that, we'll be able to have a little more information. Whether we can divulge that to our listeners, who knows? But
True. But yes, just as broad strokes for the people who may have been still aboard here past an hour. We talked about K-Lo, like for his sake, me personally, Trent, hopefully we don't see him. And that's only in an air to wish him better. I really hope he's playing. He could be on a tier 2 team. I'm convinced very easily here in the States, or if he wants to go elsewhere, like certified baller. I think he showed that every single game last year. You'd be hard pressed to tell me otherwise. But 10%.
yeah, I kind of got to go that direction as well. I'll say maybe like 15 or 20, just wishful thinking, but it's like he's that one ex-girlfriend that you just weren't good enough for, and you wish that you could make it work, but you just know they deserve better, so you just got to let them go. And that's what it feels like with Kevin Lowe. It's like, man, I love the heck out of you. I would spend the rest of my life with you, but you got to do what's best for yourself, brother. So I fully expect him to move on and play elsewhere, but would do absolutely anything to get Kevin Lowe back in a Tallahassee jersey for next year, man.
Goal of the year, right?
I'd argue goal of our program, at least since I've been around to witness all the goals that I witnessed. Like that's the greatest goal I've ever seen. Like that was just such a heroic effort. Like it wasn't just him receiving the ball and like taking a strike. Like he built the whole thing up himself. Like juked out like 17 players. I know there's only 11 and only 10 in the field, but like dude, he just took everybody on and just found an inch of space and took a shot that took a deflection and still had just so much oomph on it. Like it just flew 90. Like the keeper was frozen. There was nothing he could do. He could never even think about touching that ball. Like that was unreal. Outside of the box, dying embers of the first half. Insane, dude. What a warrior.
Yeah, for sure.
20%.
20%. Let's keep it rolling. We talked about Mark. I think Mark is maybe 30, 40. I think we already went through Mark. But yeah, 30, 40.
Yeah, I'd probably be down there with like Bilal, like 20, 30 for me.
Matt, talked about Matt. Nick, large unknown. I think he was a senior last year. So obviously he was here at Florida State going to school, and just by transient nature, most likely percentage wise, people move out of here after they graduate. So I'd say probably low 20.
Yeah, I'd probably say like 10 or 15.
Yeah. Keep rolling. We talked about Ali. Rafa. I know Rafa's also a little older. He went back to law school, so he left in the middle of the season. So I assume that's really low, probably 10. Great player.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah, I loved having him on the back line, but yeah, I'd probably go like 5%. Just realistically thinking, he couldn't stick it out last season, and understandably so. Like, you got to do what you got to do. He's going to school, but just thinking like it's probably a really big long shot, like maybe even longer than it is to get like Kevin or Gaku back, to see him again. So wish him the best if he never returns, but would love to have him back.
Yeah, it feels like every year we have a guy that you really kind of root for and then has, his career takes him out way too early.
Yeah,
So you think about like Cole Red, right? Going off to nursing school.
yeah.
A couple
Cam
of
Earls.
Cam Earl, same kind of thing. Very similar. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Ooh.
This one is wild. Trenton Blake, maybe the best young talent. Well, I guess that's not true because you got Jaden Jones-Riley, who's on the Portland Timbers now. So I was gonna say maybe best young talent to come out of Tallahassee in quite some time.
You
But
ever heard of Cousin Cy?
yeah, exactly.
No,
So
I'm
that's
just
the
kidding.
thing. High profile. The thing is, he's gonna have opportunities, I think.
Yeah.
So the age makes sense. He's still young, still, in just I think first year at Dartmouth, and so he's gonna be maybe coming back. He's gonna be available in the summer. But whether he has an opportunity up there or elsewhere to play, we obviously know he's got the Rowdies ties. I don't know if that still exists, but I think his other obligations are more of a concern than anything else. If he gets another opportunity to go forward, which we fully support, right? We want to see these guys go.
Oh yeah.
We understand Tallahassee's on the fourth rung, right? And if they're all ballers, like we're rooting for you, man. Like, we don't want to trap you here. And we realize this isn't the destination. We get it. But I would say pretty good. I would say 55, 60%. I'd put him over 50-50. Which
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to think that like a player at his level, like you could argue he's just as good as like Gaku or Kevin, or maybe just a slight tier below that. And so obviously he's got opportunity to go play really wherever he wants. There's so many teams, especially at our level, that would want him. And like you said, Tallahassee does so often feel like a stepping stone for a lot of these players, as it should be, I feel like. And so obviously would not be surprised if he took his talents elsewhere. But just selfishly speaking, yeah, I'd probably go about 60-70%, just because he's been around and really started to kind of come into his own with the team last year, and hopefully he just wants to build on that. And man, he'd be a huge player. Like, say we don't get Stafford Dowling back, like that would be a huge building block for us to build the attack around this season.
Yeah, for sure. Or you talk about limited capacity. I could see him with his other obligations. He was tied up for the first half of the season, but I could see him in another similar situation, maybe coming for the last six or something like that. Just that percentage was any kind of appearance at all. Going back through your boy, perfect segue, Trent Staff, up at University of Charlton, was going off this season. I think he got, I don't want to say what he got. He got some kind of award in his conference. So
Yeah, I can't remember. I do know that he tied the Tallahassee single season record for most goals. So that was really cool to see him come in and just be an absolute poacher and just a dog, dude. Like, he played all over the field. I was watching that Southern States game, and he's tracking back in like the edge of the defensive third, like man marking Mason Walsh and like taking him down to the ground. And it wasn't clean, getting called for fouls and just setting the physical tone. Like, just an absolute dog, dude. Like, give me 11 Stafford Dowlings, and I'll take on any team in the world.
yeah, work rate unreal.
Yeah.
Him, I think, graduating, anytime you have a senior on the way out, I think it trends down below 50% for me. So I'll probably have my standard 30-35.
Yeah, I'd probably lean probably like 20-30%, just because, I mean, one, he's not even from this side of the world. So say he wants to go home after college, that's totally understandable. But yeah, dude, like, just just wishful thinking, like, put him at 50%. Like, I'd do anything for Stafford to come back, man. I loved him. I think he was like the perfect complement to your Cy and to your Trenton Blake. And, just would kill to have those three up top again, man. That was so scary, so dangerous the couple of times we got to see that last year.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about tries for that, Zuri, and we're back around. So
Yeah.
we kind of just fell into that. It wasn't planned, but Yeah, man, I guess that's kind of a great way to wrap up the 2023 is we can each give those guys a tip of the cap. I know there were guys that weren't there that were kind of in the mix, but a solid what's up, boys, for them. But yeah, Trent, I think we can shut it down as we start to get a little transition here. We'll jump out for a little break. More action coming on the other side. Stay tuned. All right, and welcome back to Tallahassee Talk, episode 33, coming right back at you. Of course, Trent, one of the things we kind of touched on in passing going on here is what we have before us in the 24 season. Obviously, we're very reminiscent, shared tales from the past, got into a little deep dive on some of those players here for 2023, the season, the results, or whatever. Okay, given. Let's take this into the next level. Of course, 2024 back in the National Premier Soccer League and going forward once again here, fourth consecutive year in the NPSL. I guess before we get into any kind of the intricacies, which we'll unpack in a little bit, general thoughts about being back in the NPSL, Trent?
Just thankful that we don't have to go down a tier. While that may be easier and we could see a potentially more successful team, even if the team wasn't as good as it was in the 2023 season, I'd rather play at a higher level because then you're challenged to be better. It's we saw what happened when we played Swegans, and not to down talk them or anything, but it was just an easier game for us to play. And so if we're playing teams at that level, while it would look good, while it would feel good, while that would potentially get more people in the seats, me personally, as just as somebody who loves the game, I just want to see this team be challenged. And so I think that our best chance for that right now in 2024 is to play in the NPSL. And there's no telling who we're going to play against. I'm sure we're going to play against the Armada in New Orleans still. But everything else is kind of a toss up at this point, or so it seems. So just thankful that we still get to play against teams like that have a really high pedigree and have been around for a while. And really wouldn't trade that for anything else at this point, just knowing where the team is at and where it's potentially going to be at in this upcoming 2024 season.
Yeah, so that's where you kind of said it, Trent. So whether that who's going to be there, who's not going to be there, Trent, to some listeners, this may be breaking news. So tell us a little bit about it. Why are we confused about that environment?
Southern states potentially, actually, definitely currently out. And it looks like the Roots are potentially actually definitely out as well. So we don't know if they're going to, have GCPL teams, if they're going to go, Southern States, just had a really good year. They won the league. If they're going to go up, no telling what's going to happen with them. But as of now, it looks like they're not going to be in whatever conference we're playing in within the NPSL this upcoming season.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the story. The conference is shrinking. So that kind of opens up another kind of conversations. And then we start having some NCAA football conversations, right? About what kind of develops with that. But yeah, from what we've heard, due to financial reasons, the Roots and Southern States will not be participating in NPSL this year, according to social media and some other things. We've got sources out west, Trent. And so the spillings that have made their way back to the capital city, the Sunshine State, is that these teams will still be fielding GCPL teams. So you will see them at those levels, and so you will see some things flying around the medias. But as of today, late January, that is the news. Of course, relegated, and the ultimate relegation in lower league soccer, Trent, is you got to fold up the doors here for the NPSL. So still some of the lower leagues. Obviously, these teams have very successful academies that they've had, so that's not going to affect those things. But as far as the NPSL is concerned, no true relegation yet here in the States. But of course, for financial reasons, on the way out, which is how it goes sometimes when you got the big donor, the big money owner, just like we saw at AFC Mobile, they pull the rug and they're out of there sometimes. But,
Yep.
When you got a built not bought franchise like TSC, a little more staying power, a little more community buy-in, and helps you kind of keep on sailing through the seas. But so definitely changes afoot here. So it makes you wonder. Trent kind of could be, unless you have some more thoughts, or do we want to save those for when we know both those franchises are definitely? So we've been told it's a definite. I mean, we were told Roots end of last year.
But last year, we were also told Pensacola was a definite out.
Right. Oh, yeah, that happened. They were
So,
out, and they've since come back around. Something was astir over the holidays.
but
We've got our people out there, and between football season and Christmas, there was a transition. They were legitimately out, and then there was a buy back in, and they will be returning on we've been told, a year-to-year trial basis. So we'll see
but
how that goes.
sure, but I bring that up, Joop, to say is like, maybe I don't want to say everything I want to say about these clubs because there's the potential that that could happen again, right? Like who knows what could happen. There's still 4 months before the season starts, so we'll wait until the season begins, and we just beyond a shadow of a doubt. At least I will. You can go ahead and say what you want, but I've got a few choice words to say, so I'll save those until I know there's no coming back.
Fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, as far as Pensacola, to your point, the exact same thing happened last year. They were out, then they're in. What are you doing? Give us something we can do. So we're still waiting on kind of news from our rumblings, but we have some ears to the ground out there locally, Trent. So hopefully that'll help our cause, which leads us to another question. So you kind of think about it practically from the standpoint of, okay, well, let's think about if both those clubs are out and Pensacola is back. So the things that we anticipate, the conference is in shambles. I don't even know if you can call it a conference anymore. The only teams that are left would be in the pre-existing Gulf Coast Conference that we've known: New Orleans, Jacksonville, Pensacola, and us.
Do you
The
have like
three
a graphic that could potentially break this down
we
to maybe
could.
see a little better? Because I'm having a hard time picturing this right now without a visual.
True, we can. This will definitely get into some some weeds here.
It's
Wouldn't
just
be
a
the first.
question.
Yes, the answer is yes. Where is our beautiful graphic here that I was meaning to share? Trent, as you kind of take over for me,
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely, Jude. I
help.
can certainly do that for you. Sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but I'm sitting here looking at it myself, and I was kind of joking because I do actually have it here in front of me. But yeah, you're just looking at Southern states, and the roots are out right now. So we were down to 6 teams last year, which was already kind of tough. We were able to make it 10 games in the regular season. But now looking back and seeing what's left is you got the Armada U23 team that they're still currently fielding. They got the New Orleans Jesters, and Pensacola, like you said, looks to be back on a year-to-year deal. So just with that being the landscape of it, you think about, are we going to potentially have any of these Georgia teams come be a part of our conference? Are we going to expand southward and have some of like the Central or more southern Florida teams be potentially in our conference to do some kind of crazy merger? It does feel a lot like college football, man, because it's like we're like almost like the Pac-12. It's just kind of like that could have just been the last season, and maybe the Gulf Coast Conference is no more. We, as of January 19th, have no freaking idea. Your guess is as good as ours, but yeah.
Okay, so here's just some scenarios, Trent, and we kind of built these up. So I can kind of set the table if you like to kind of build these through. So these are 4 scenarios, just kind of out of the possibility that either make sense to me or I could see the league doing. So I've kind of sprinkled them in and labeled them as such, just for kind of context here. So, like we said, likely incoming conference realignment, because I think the league would be very anti for team conference. I think there was only one last year, and that was the Sunshine, and they were a mess. They played each other like 3-4 times each, which I do not want to do.
No,
I don't know about you, Trent. I don't want to be playing. I don't care any team. I don't want to be playing any of them 4 times in the
dude,
regular
I don't
season.
want to play Jacksonville once. We got to play them twice. That sucks.
Home and home is enough. Yeah. Okay. So here's some scenarios. So here's the current what the South region looks like. So of course we have Roots and Southern States X'd out there. So it's built up of 4 conferences. We've got our Gulf Coast there. The Lone Star is going to be the Texas one. And so they got a ton of teams, and I think they're pretty stable. And so in all of our examples, we're not going to be touching that region, the Lone Star Conference. We're going to assume that they're going to stay independent. They will be unaffected. Plus, with them being so far out west, they're kind of isolated geographically, so it wouldn't make sense for any of that to kind of play out here. So I'm actually going to switch this out. If there is a way that I can get the other PowerPoint up, Trent, because as I realize this is the incorrect PowerPoint that I'm trying to pull off here. So this should be the correct one here. So we have the conference realignment, right? Can you see that correctly?
Yes, sir.
So we have the big one. You can see the full screen here. Okay, so current South region, we got the 4 conferences. Like we said, Lone Star is not going to be affected here, but we will get 3 expansion teams that will all probably fall into the Eastern Conference. You've got Hickory FC, which is going to be in North Carolina. You've got Port City FC, not the one we know and love, Trent. Of course, that's a North Carolina club up in Wilmington that'll start this year. And then expansion team in Columbus, which is just 2.5 hours from Tallahassee. So, of course, the non-returning teams, you can see bottom right. Can you see that RIP, not returning in 24?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Southern States and Florida roots. That's all that we know about. We're not as in touch, or we don't have as many people in these other conferences that we can utilize as resources or reliable sources. So we're kind of assuming, but also not assuming, that there will be some change. So as of now, we don't know anybody leaving, but from a standpoint, the NPSL has been trending down the last couple of years. I know there's a bunch of teams coming in. I think 11 expansion teams this year, but typically there's 12 to 14 drop out every year. So potentially within this realm of these conversations could be null and void if more teams drop out. So I want to say that. So anything in this realm, Trent, that you want to set the table with, or can we get into some of the scenarios?
I mean, I just think, geographically speaking, it would make sense for Columbus to join the Gulf Coast Conference.
Okay.
Don't know how realistic that is. Don't know where they're at. Don't know if they've already agreed to be in another conference or anything. Like you said, we don't really know a whole lot at this point. But just geographically thinking, I think that would just kind of make sense. Obviously, our conference is looking for teams to kind of scoop up, so that brings it to 5, and then we're only looking for like one more at that point. It feels like, because obviously we just did a season with 6, so that feels like at this point the most natural way of thinking. But yeah, tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, for sure. We're kind of rolling here a little bit, but that makes the most sense as far as that Columbus last expansion team there coming into the Gulf Coast, because it makes a lot of sense to put those 2 North Carolina teams, which is basically becoming a North Carolina conference here in the Southeast, because it would be too far to hit kind of that mid-Atlantic where the Virginia and Maryland teams are, which is actually the eastern region of the NPSL. So I think it'd be a big stretch there. So it just makes sense to put him in Southeast. So I think we can afford Columbus, which, although pretty close to Atlanta teams, Georgia Revolution and Georgia Storm that you can see down there towards the bottom, realistically, as far as the region as a whole, would be a better even spread. And also, like you said, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, those are 2.5, 3, 4 hour trips that are, well within the realm of what you can be at this level. But yeah, let's get into some scenarios. So as we kind of started to spitball where the expansion team's going, that's part of the mix. So this is my dream scenario. So whether that happens or not, this is what I wish happens. This is option number 1. We're going to have 4 conferences. That's the 4 up top. It's going to be 3 that you see here, plus the Texas conference that we know of. So in every simulation that I've been running, Trent, New Orleans is the problem. And geographically speaking, we're not going to get into everything else. It's guarded with New Orleans right now, but you can't put them in Texas because they're too far from all the Texas teams. But they're so far out of these other remaining teams that we have now that we've lost our Mobiles, since we lost our Gulfports, our Port City. There's really no link to us out to New Orleans. Pensacola is the closest one. Even that's kind of a stretch,
Mm-hmm.
So to me, give us Columbus, just shut down New Orleans, say, hey, go play GCBL ball, and then we take the 2 Atlanta teams. So we've got 2 Atlanta teams, which is like 4 hours away, Columbus, Jacksonville, us. Trent, the beauty of this, it is a beautiful 16 conference. You have a 10-game conference slate, still with flexibility to schedule a 12-game schedule, and nobody would have to drive more than 5 hours for any single road trip in this conference. Pensacola to Atlanta would be the farthest one, and it'd be under 5 hours, which is amazing at this level. And then also, as we transition to top right corner, Southeastern Conference, you give them those 2 expansion teams. Obviously, they lost the 2 Atlanta teams. Sunshine Conference, hopefully they're good down there. They did their own thing as a 4-team conference last year. I say run it back.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, that makes the most sense. And like you said, it does just kind of make sense that New Orleans gets left out. And, it kind of seems like it might be too long of a drive for them to join the Lone Star Conference or anything like that. And they're already pretty packed as it is. So no telling what would happen with them. But yeah, like selfishly speaking, it almost seems like you wish that New Orleans could have been one of the teams that folded and we still had like Southern states with the roots around just to make this work just a little bit better. But obviously love playing against them and they've been a really fun team to play against the last few years. But yeah, I mean, I think that makes the most sense. Like you said, the Sunshine Conference did their thing with 4 last year. So who's to say why they can't do it again. But yeah, it just makes sense to get a couple of those Atlanta teams and the Columbus team in there. And yeah, that's fun, man. Then you got 4 teams in the playoffs, only 2 teams missing out, and I feel like that's a nice, strong, competitive league again, or conference again, I should say.
Yeah, of course, that'll never happen. But I just wanted to throw this in
No,
here.
it won't.
This is my dream situation. They're never telling New Orleans to close, especially with them being on the board of the NPSL.
Oh yeah.
That's a conversation for a different day. Here's option number 2, Trent. So this one, it's a little more happy. A nice compromise is what we have. So largely the same breakdown. Let's start in the Gulf Coast Conference here on the left. Once again, it's 4 conferences here, 3 that you can see, plus the Texas Conference. So same thing. We keep the Gulf Coast people, Pensacola, Tallahassee, New Orleans. We take the expansion team, Columbus, and then we also steal the 2 Atlanta teams from that Southeastern Conference. So that gives us 6. So to keep us at 6, as we try to balance the power, we give the 2 expansion teams, like we said, to the Southeast. They've also got 6. So to balance it out, we stick Jacksonville with the Sunshine Conference, which they were formerly with, and Naples and Miami, not that bad for Jacksonville, 6-hour-ish drives. If they could stay together and keep that 5 strong, this would be kind of the most even, and we wouldn't have to keep a team out of the league. Kick a team out of the league in order to make this happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense because definitely Jacksonville has the money to travel that far. And then they've already been a part of that conference before, as you said. And then, we're able to keep New Orleans, which, like you said, they're not going anywhere. Honestly, I always forget that they have such strong ties to the board, but they do. So they're not going anywhere. They are essentially at this point the Gulf Coast Conference of the NPSL, it seems like. Just been around the longest, it feels like. So, but yeah, I mean, to be able to play with those 2 Atlanta teams, like you said, that's only like 4 or 5 hours away for the Battle Lions to travel up there and have them come down here. So, I mean, that's just as far as going out to Hattiesburg or going out to New Orleans. So I think that feasibly can make the most sense. Whether that happens or not, again, all of these are complete toss-ups. We have no freaking idea. But hopefully we get something like option 1 or 2 to work out in our favor. And we still, like I said, I just want to have 6 teams. I feel like that's a good number. Obviously, we'd love to have 8, right? Like that's ideal. But, we don't want to be a 4 or 5 team conference like the Sunshine Conference, not to dog them, but like I said, I don't even want to play Jacksonville once. So this is like my dream scenario to just completely get rid of them again.
And that's the thing from a TSC standpoint. So this I actually like in that regard is, hey, you've got your 5 conference games, cool. But then you could also schedule home and home with Jacksonville. They're only 2.5, 3 hours away, Trent.
Yeah.
So that way you can get a cross competition. So it wouldn't be a conference game. And so basically be friendlies, but still to get to that 12-game slate because your Battle Lions draw a big crowd. We need those 6 home games to pay that bill, man. So that could also kind of open up an opportunity for that there.
Well, yeah, at least we forget about Sowegans. Like maybe we could just play like 1 game with Jacksonville, 1 game with Sowegans, like get one of those to be a home game, something like that. But still we're building some of these alliances within soccer, or soccer in the Southeast, I should say. And so it's just nice to be able to have the potential opportunity to play friendlies with clubs like this, even if we aren't grouped in the same conference as them.
Yeah, good point. We could also dip down and resurrect that AFC Mobile rivalry too, since they're coming back to the
There
GCPL.
we go. Got
So,
that right.
so we're going to number 3. So these are unfortunately, I put them in orange and red. I wanted some more violent colors because these I do not like, and I think they are dumb. As we could see here, our graphics guy did a great job of generating those. But these are simple versions, and so I could definitely see the conference going with the easy way out and doing something along these lines. So that's how I preface this. This would take the region into a 5-conference region because you'd make the mini conferences. That's why you see all these little pockets here. Of course, they keep the remaining GCPL teams, so that would remain in the top left unchanged. This is where it gets weird. This bottom left is a hodgepodge. You take the 2 Atlanta teams and the Knoxville team, 865. You throw in the new Columbus, a little stretch travel wise, but it kind of loops around and makes sense. You create a then North Carolina conference, which is only comprised of North Carolina teams in the top right. And then you have the Sunshine remaining the same. All small conferences, though.
Yeah, that just sucks for everyone. Like
Yeah.
that sounds so awful, but as you say that, it does seem the most realistic. Just because, like North Carolina, as you said, like they've got 5 teams there alone. Sunshine did it with 4 last year, and so why would they not go with like the 4 Georgia teams? Throwing in Knoxville kind of makes sense too. And then obviously we got Pensacola and Jacksonville, within just a few hours, and then New Orleans is going to kind of always be tied to this conference, like I said before. So while that does seem most realistic, like, man, that just sucks to envision. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I really like playing each team twice, home and away, and having at least 6 teams in the conference, like I said before as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say that's probably, it feels like a 60-70% chance like something like that happens, or close enough to that happening
Which
for
is
me.
what I'm afraid. And then it could
Yeah,
even get into the easy situation. The opposite of the mini conference is the mega conference, which you just jam them all together. So what you take is basically you put the 2 expansion teams into the Southeast, and then you jam Columbus and all the Florida teams into the same conference with New Orleans in there. So you've got these 2 enormous conferences with tons of travel all over the place. That could be problematic. Actually, the North Carolina one's not bad as far as they're concerned, but I'm looking more at the Gulf
sure.
Coast Conference because I don't really care about those other teams until we get into the regionals. But this would be awful.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about it, I feel like number 4, this one right here, like feels more realistic than number 3. And you just think about that realistically, and it's like, dude, driving down to Naples and Miami just sucks so much. Like, that's just not a fun drive. Like, that's such a far travel. And then like you get into those situations like with southern states, you get a weather delay, and then like you're there overnight unexpectedly, and like you're staying in town for like an extra 10-12 hours, and just throws everything off. And so like I just really don't want to get into a situation like that. But I feel like the NPSL would probably rather have stronger looking conferences like that, have an 8-team and a 9-team league, or conference, I should say, rather than, like 4 team conferences. So I just think that kind of is most realistic, as much as that may suck even more than scenario number 3 that we just talked about.
And really, you could put Columbus in either one of these with the mega
Sure.
conferences because they're kind of a good spot for them where they can really kind of double dip. They're only a short stone's throw from Atlanta, and then you get up to the rest of the conference. But also here with us, they're close to us, they're close to Jacksonville, and then everybody else. So you can really kind of flip flop them. But yeah, that's what I'm fearful of. Is to me, it's like the path of least resistance is kind of the MO of the, as we kind of go back to this other one, the NPSL. And so I'm really fearful that they'll either chop it up really small, like we see here, or they'll just jam everything together and make them really big. And I mean, New Orleans to Miami is 14 hours straight driving. So that's like a multi-day trip. You probably should just fly New Orleans if we're going to do this. So pleading to our board members, I think Jacksonville, New Orleans on the board. That usually falls on deaf ears from a TSC perspective as we're trying to get some help. But I think there's some good options. Like we can see Trent, obviously not to toot my own horn. But there's pliable situations that you could do are really kind of productive given your situation. I'm just hoping that we get some sound decisions here shortly.
Yeah, I'm sure they've given all of this just as much thought, if
You
not
think
more
so?
thought than we have. I hope so. I
I
mean,
don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. Is the NPSL doing the work as it should be as our conferencing body? And is my thing the big problem with the NPSL? Are we a club at our level, which I think is pretty moderate? When you look at the scale, we're not one of the big money, high profile clubs. And I think we're also kind of growing into a not on the brink of going out of business. But realistically, I'd say we're pretty average as far as the nation goes. And I don't know, at least in our Gulf Coast, it may be different in the Mid Atlantic, Northeast, or out West how they do it. We only know our game that we're playing, Trent. I don't know that we're being properly served, and is kind of my thing within here in the conference realm. And then I don't think when we do speak up as a team, not necessarily the podcast, because who cares what we say, right? But as far as the organization speaks up, I don't know that those concerns are even considered slightly, which are often very legitimate. And that kind of falls back onto even last year, proposing a schedule that's a lot more balanced. This is a semi professional soccer team. Why are we having multiple Wednesday games? Why aren't we playing on Saturdays? GCPL does it just fine. Why can't we do that here in the NPSL level? There's all the shenanigans and they want to just run riot. And we had a proposed schedule go before the board. They threw that thing in the trash. He said, nah, we're doing exactly what we did last year.
copy and paste. Yep.
Yeah. Copy paste. And so that's the path of least resistance and what I'm worried about here as far as this conference, this looming conference realignment situation is coming into the fold. My biggest concern.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, just thinking, at, at this point in this season, or I guess in the off season, I should say, with these teams paying the club dues and everything, and investing money into being in this league, you think that they would put forth some type of thought into arranging these, and you think that we would have some more answers, and we wouldn't just be grasping at straws at this point. Granted, it is January, but I mean, shoot, 4 months away. These boys will be getting geared up, going to practice every week.
Yeah, what are we doing? I know other organizations, they have their whole schedule ready to go. So what are we doing here? And remember that happened last year? We thought AFC was in the conference. All of a
Yep.
sudden, oh yeah, the MPSL's like, oh yeah, their dues are over 4 months old. Oh, we just found out they're not coming back. So by the way, boom, we're ripping AFC out of your conference. What's to say that that's not happening actively and we just don't know about it?
Yeah, there's no telling. I mean, and that was what was so crazy is like, okay, Pensacola's out. At least we got AFC. And then it's like, oh, AFC's out and Pensacola's back. So like, yeah, it was just it's always there's no telling what's going to happen with this conference with this league. But yeah, I'm sure hopefully by April or May we'll be able to talk a little bit more intelligently about this. So we'll have to come back and do some more pods, and I'm sure we'll have to drop a breaking pod once we know for sure. That'll be fun.
True. So those are the options we have here. So we're still looking forward. We're trying to figure out a schedule because this comes into out of conference depending on the size. Realistically, like we said, I didn't say it in jest. For TSC to pay the bills because attendance is so solid and it's largely factored into the budget. TSC, in order to survive year to year, has to have 6 home games. Because they're averaging 700 plus per game. That's been the case for 2+ years now of having that kind of attendance. So that revenue generated from ticket sales, they have to have 6 home games. So that all goes into it. Do we need to go find us a Wiegans, a AFC? Do we need to go other avenues? Maybe we play up a league or two, like we've seen some other teams in our conferences bring people into a little home and home. Kind of get creative to ensure that we can get that 6 home game. So it'll be interesting to see going forward here, man. But a lot of question marks this time of year, which is all
Definitely.
fun, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and as I'm thinking about it, like maybe we could play the Roots again. Like that's a pretty close drive. Like we wouldn't have to go far, and even if we played away, like we'd still get some fans out there. But obviously, like you said, we just need to have that 6 home game, and that's why it was so cool having 7 and 8 home games a couple years ago. just being able to bring in so much revenue. And I think even in 2021, I think one of those games we got like to like 950 or somewhere around about. It's like almost finally broke 1,000. So like that was just super big, and like that just does so much for the club as a nonprofit to like bring in that kind of revenue. And yeah, man, that's why it's so big to get out there every Saturday when we have a home game, and that's why having games on Saturdays are so big, is because we can get more fans out there, and it just builds itself, man. And so, yeah, sometimes I just wish that like Petley was on the board and was able to like speak a little more sense into all this, but then again, we know how Chris Petley can be. So,
Well, anybody on our board really to be a representative
sure, dude.
fighting out there. I'd love to have Brent out there on the board. He'd be cracking heads. Our
Oh, dude.
security at TSC, if you don't know him, he would be absolutely cracking heads over there when they get together in Anaheim or New York or wherever next year's meet and greet is for all these big wigs. So I might have to pipe out some emails here, Trent, to try and jumpstart this whole scheduling conference realignment thing. Those usually work out pretty well, pretty effective.
Yeah.
So we shall see. We shall see. But yeah, any more thoughts here on really the conference and what we can expect here going forward short term before we know anything?
Nah, buddy, that's about all I got.
All right. What about in total, man? Are we about to wrap this joker up right now?
I think so. It's been a good ride. We're approaching 2 hours in typical first pod back fashion that we love to do. But that this one's been a long time coming. We've been talking about it for months, and schedules just haven't aligned. So definitely wanted to shed some light on the beautiful season we had last year and take a look forward into what we can expect in 2024 and kind of predict the future. So just thankful to have this podcast as an outlet. Thankful to be back for a fourth year with you and the broadcast and with the whole Battle Line family. So that's just about all I got over here, brother.
Absolutely. And as we say that, Trent, just want to put that out there. Official word, able to get that squashed. I know that was something on a lot of people's minds. The old gruesome twosome is going to be back for year 4. Of course, your boys Andrew Joop and Trenton Young back for play-by-play and color commentary for your Tallahassee Soccer Club, and maybe some podcast here throughout the year as well, my man, as we put a bow on things. Of course, we got to keep this thing going. The longest running podcast here in the Gulf Coast Conference. Trent, any closing thoughts?
That's it, man. Happy to be back. Happy to keep doing it. Happy to be working with you. And I just can't wait for another beautiful season, man. Playoffs or bust. I'm saying it now, January 19th. Put it on the board.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll go ahead and put a bow on. Thanks for Andrew Jupe and Trenton Young here, the Tally SC Talk podcast. As always, make sure to follow, subscribe, mash, like, all that good stuff, all the goodies. So we can get this keep going round and round to all the TSC faithful that may be looking for it. Or maybe those people who are just interested in peeking in the blinds a little bit, get a little look at the conference. Because like we said, we do have some pretty touch base link ups here in conference. So we try to give you the picture as a whole here in the region, the conference as well. But for Andrew Jupe and Trenton Young, thanks for coming aboard with us. Be well. Don't ever stop chasing your dreams and go Battle Lions.